right, so welcome, folks. Looks like we got a nice crowd here today. Um, we've got a suggestion for a call about feelings, or actually, the right word to use is Vedana or Vedanta. Now, the reason why I would be a bit reluctant to use the word feeling is because almost always in English language, the word feeling is associated with emotion, and that I would like to make a distinction between the two of them. That Vedana, which is we've got no word for it in English, and so we translate it as the word feeling, and we can use then feeling in two stages. One would be a small thing, very fast acting, that leads immediately into emotion. And so Vedana is kind of the preliminary to emotion. And one of the points about emotion, and I'm looking at it specifically through the view of the dependent origination or paticca samuppada. And we're not going to do all of the paticca samuppada today. We're going to be focusing mostly uh, but we can see that the word motion has the word motion in it. Motion is kind of like a big thing. It's kind of like a doing. And so we can relate emotion closer to tanha and upadana, where we're actually doing something. Emotion is almost always a big thing. If it's a negative emotion, we're angry, we're crying, we're frustrated, we're throwing things, we're disappointed, that kind of thing. And if it's positive, then we're chasing, we're anticipation would be the emotion that we would have. But all of that is based upon um, this thing called Vedana. Now, Vedana is what happens in the mind that follows the contact that we have with some story that we've made up. So, in the teaching of Paticca Samuppada, it's not the outside world that causes our emotion, but that we take the outside world and mix that with stuff from our past. Just recently on Discord, someone talked about stressful clients. And I mentioned that while the clients themselves may be subject to stress, they are not stressful. That in fact, the stress is coming from the story that we tell ourselves. And so, with that as a preliminary, we'll go into it. Now, let us say that if we do a full investigation, we'll come up with 4 or even 5 different kinds of Vedana. Normally, we think of the Vedana as or positive or pleasure, a pleasure feeling. And you see that in the sequence of events, a pleasurable feeling will lead to wanting, and wanting will then lead to the emotion of gotta have it, the upadana. Or if we have, let us say, dukkha vedana, or perhaps an asukha vedana, which means that we don't like it, and that's going to lead then to disappointment, dissatisfaction, uh, perhaps anger, frustration, and worry. And now I'm going to introduce a third kind of Vedana. And in fact, this third kind of Vedana is the one that needs to be investigated and hence the reason for today's talk, that in the English translations of various suttas, this is referred to as a neutral feeling. And the reason that it's been referred to as a neutral feeling is simply because they haven't paid close attention to what the Pali actually says. And so, in fact, the sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya and the Samyutta Nikaya, they use actually a different word than they do in the older texts, the Sutta Nipata, the Udana, and the Majjhima Nikaya. In the Majjhima Nikaya, it's often referred to as Asukha Ma Sukha. And in the Anguttara Nikaya, it's referred to as Adukkha Ma Asukha. Now, what that means is that if we have one kind that's a dissatisfaction kind of Vedana, and we have a satisfaction kind of Vedana, or a pleasurable Vedana, a Sukha Vedana, then it tends to look like that it's not Dukkha Vedana and it's not Sukha Vedana. It must be that they cancel each other out and hence no feeling at all, or what we would call a neutral feeling. But this is not the case at all. But in fact, I would like to introduce a little bit of physics here, in the sense of everybody's at least heard about quantum theory and quantum mechanics, etc., like that. And what quantum means is that it takes a quantum to leap. You have to have enough energy for a valence electron to move from one valence to another. The same thing would be like stair steps, that if you're coming up the steps, each step is a full quantum, that we generally do not use a ramp. A ramp would be smooth, but it depends upon whether or not you've got a microscope looking at that ramp. Not many ramps uh, are very much like a when the escalator comes out of the first point, there's not much of it eventually comes up. So that there's quite a leap. And the reason that I'm introducing this is that I said yesterday when we were talking to Ivan a little bit about this, that if you take things very lightly, then that means then that it doesn't make the full quantum. It doesn't go from emotion or from Vedana or a slight feeling into emotion. That is just a little bit. However, that's also true about what is referred to as a neutral feeling. Now, what do we mean by that? It means then that a neutral feeling is not actually neutral. If it were neutral, then it would never make that quantum leap up into an emotion. So, what kind of emotions does this come out of this asukha masuka kind of Vedana? We could say then that it can be referred to as confusion. It can be referred to as actually a kind of frustration. In other words, we don't know how to feel about something. We go back and forth. Sometimes we have both. That in fact, if we're staying with the idea of stress within physics or physical engineering, mechanical engineering, there is a kind of force. It's called a shearing force, to where one thing is pushing up and the other one is pushing down, or it could be sideways, to where one thing is pushing against the other. This would be what we're talking about with this third kind of feeling, is that the mind is actually in conflict. We don't know how we feel. The example that I would use then would be this idea of stressful clients. Well, the client is maybe stressed out, but that's his thing. But if we have negative feelings about the client because they are stressed out and they're trying to give them our stress, they are giving us their stress. But we want them to be a client because we're making money out of it. You can see that there is a contradiction there. And we don't know whether we like that client to be a client or not because we've got that push pull. So this is actually a kind of then feeling that we have that can get actually quite stressful. That we want them very much because we're making money out of them, but we don't want them at all because they're stressing us out. However, we have to recognize that especially in the case of them stressing us out, they can't. That we are the ones who stress ourselves out because we don't like their behavior. So we like their business and we don't like their behavior, giving rise to this third kind of feeling that is referred to in the suttas as asukha masuka. Now, I would like to to point out that there is a quality that's called the end of feeling. The end is referred in various suttas. The best example would be in Sutta number 111, where after Sariputta goes through the practice that only took him about a couple of weeks. This is not a big deal. We call it the fourth jhana, but really, these are not what people would refer to as deep, deep states of meditation, but rather it's deep looking. That when you recognize that if you don't make up any stories about something, then you're not going to have any feelings about it. And then later, you may, in fact, make up stories, and then you're going to have feelings about it. And if you make up the kind of story that we were just talking about a stressful client, you're going to wind up in this awkward state of confusion. We could also call this the hindrance of doubt. We wind up having questions. We're not sure, and that we don't like being not sure. We want to know. We want to come out of that state. Now, normally, what happens because of this lack of knowledge, that state of uh, what is referred to in the suttas in the English language of the neutral feeling, but is in fact a confused feeling when you understand the Pali, that deteriorates into a dukkha kind of feeling. In other words, we go from a state of not sure about how to feel about it into not liking it. This is actually quite instinctual in the human, and that we can see this in, there's the political statement, better the devil that you know than the devil that you don't. We don't like dealing with things that we don't know, and so we immediately just start not liking it. This is also what you could say is the reason why we have tribalism. You see somebody in a hat that you don't wear, there must be something weird about them because they don't wear the hat that you're familiar with. They wear some strange hat, maybe a turban or a fez or maybe a cowboy hat, whatever the hat that they're wearing. You don't like it because you don't understand it. This is instinctual. So that third kind of feeling that we've been talking about actually is sometimes very temporary. Sometimes it rots right into not liking. Other times it will linger. In fact, you could go so far as to say sometimes it will linger all the way through the years it takes to get a PhD and even past that. Even though you've written a thesis about your topic, you're still not sure, not comfortable with it. This is how severe this kind of feeling can be. But it's not the same thing as a really neutral feeling would be kind of no feeling at all. And the Buddha does talk about that. This is why I make such a big deal of why the sutta translators have it wrong by calling it a neutral feeling, because it's not neutral. If it were really truly neutral, then it would not ever reach that quantum of going up to an emotion, frustration, upsetness, doubt, etc., like that. It would remain neutral. So, if we can see that the progression from this Vedana goes into emotion, then we can see that, what we need is we need some wisdom here so that we don't change it from whatever Vedana it is into Tanha or Upadana, that we can leave it below that level of quantum if we are wise enough to see it. This would be wisdom at the point of Vedana. But Bhikkhu Buddhadasa also talks about wisdom at the point of contact, so that after you've told yourself the story in this case again is stressful clients. We don't have to have that story of stressful clients to contact us into being in that stressful state, that we can choose how we're going to feel. And in fact, that's one of the beautiful parts of Paticca Samuppada, or the dependent origination, is that when you bring wisdom to any point of it, you can change it. Now, most people don't change it until it's way late in the game. They've already gotten into an argument or gotten into a fight before they recognize that this is dukkha. But we can also see that not liking something, even a little bit, is dukkha vedana, which means that dukkha actually, in its most infinitesimal form, starts with feeling. And so it's a very good point for even beginners to start looking at these feelings so that you can begin to manage them. Because if you don't see them until they grow into emotion, then you've already emoted yourself into a state of dukkha. Unpleasantness, you don't like it. You're ready to argue. And so we can actually begin to practice by looking at the things that we say to ourselves. That perception actually is the point of taking input from the outside and making sense of it. And if that process is making sense, makes the sense of this client is stressful, that does not mean that when that story of stressful client touches us, we don't have to even call him a stressful client. You can just say, he's really stressed out, and not have to have that feeling. So this is a major part of the practice. We could say then that in fact, Vedana is one of the key points of the teaching of the Buddha. It's actually the second noble truth, that Vedana, or this point, before we get uptight, before we get emotional, we go through this decisional state about how we are going to emote, or whether we're going to become emotional or not. So you can like something, or you can like it and then want it, and then like it and want it and need it, and then like it and want it and need it and call it good. This is all the ignorance that we go through. Or we can not like it. We can say, I don't want it. And then we say, I've got to avoid it. And then we'll take all kinds of actions to make sure that we avoid it. And that's just the same thing. This is the second noble truth in that whole sequence, even to the point of calling it evil, is all done in ignorance. That what we are going to practice is the practice of becoming wise to how we feel, knowing that this Vedana that we're talking about, this small feeling, is fleeting. And so it takes some attention. Start paying close attention to how you feel. Moment by moment by moment, the feelings go up and down and up and down, back and forth, depending upon the processing that the perception is doing at any particular point in time. And so, correct practice then would be to remember to look at the kind of thoughts that we have, the kind of perceptions, the kind of stories that we're telling ourselves, because those stories are going to be impacting us, leading to feeling. So if you can actually go to the point of having wisdom at the point of perception, then you're going to be telling yourself stories that give rise to the kind of feelings that you would call wise because you're intentionally having them. So what we're saying kinda is that you can feel the way you want to feel. Up to you. Use your wisdom for that. Now, that doesn't mean that right now you would make the decision, oh, I want to feel this particular way, and now you're stuck with that particular decision. Rather, when I say you have the ability to choose how you feel, we're talking about at any particular moment in time. So, Karwan, how would you feel to choose right now if we gave you the choice of how you wanted to feel? Immediately start smiling. I see that. You've already done it.
I would feel awesome, more awesome that I'm feeling right now, but this is already good enough.
That's all right. Good enough. Exactly. So, Timo, how would you feel if you could feel the way that you wanted to right now?
Comfortable.
Comfortable. That's a good feeling. Yes. Now, when we say comfort, we normally mean comfort in the body, that the body is comfortable. And when the mind is comfortable, excuse me, when the body is comfortable, that then will condition the mind to be comfortable. And yet you'll see a whole lot of meditation practices where they put the student in a position to where they intentionally make the body uncomfortable. But this is not the teaching of the Buddha. Goenka calls it strong determination sittings, and he wants people to have those kind of sensations so that they can kind of get over it. In other words, he's in the tough boy camp. He's kind of militaristic in that way. We got to make them tough so that you can get them going when the going gets tough. There's a story that you probably heard that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Well, we don't need to be tough. There's also the story that when the going gets tough, the bard go drinking. But we're not going to check out like that either. But the third story is that when the going gets tough, the Buddha takes a hike. He just walks out. And so when the going gets tough, which means that we've got to deal with stressed out clients, we don't have to walk into their stress. We can just take a hike from that. We have a choice. At any point in time, you have a choice about how you feel if you're aware of how you feel, if you're wise to this process. So, Timo, what do you think?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think we had the same theme maybe 8 weeks ago or something like that. So yeah, I feel like I've come in a circle back to it, and I can see that my understanding of it since the last talk, where the subject was talked about, has become better. So yeah, I like this topic a lot for examining the practice.
Bhikkhu Buddhadasa is actually quite big on what he calls wisdom at the point of contact. That if you know how your stories that you make up, how they're contacting you, then you can choose immediately to feel. You don't have to change your feeling from confusion into liking. You can just choose to be in the state of the feeling of liking. If, however, you have wisdom at the point of feelings, that means that you have an opportunity to revisit your story, change your story, so that you can then feel the way that you want to feel. That Paticca Samuppada, by the way, is not a linear process. That whenever you bring wisdom into it, that means you can back up a couple of steps, make a retrograde, and then continue on, so that you don't wind up in emotion. Because emotion then would be upadana. That's when you caring, which means if you keep caring, that's the same as carrying it around. So that, and what we mean by that is that we get into the habit that once we don't like something, that's our standard line, and we keep bringing that back over and over again. So an example would be, yeah, the U.S. has bombed Iran. I don't like that. So every time I think about Iran, I'm going to think about it getting bombed, and I'm going to think that I don't like that. And so we get ourselves into a tight little story loop there without bringing wisdom in it, to the point of, well, right now they're not bombing. The bombing has stopped right now. How am I going to feel with the bombing stopped? If I didn't like it when the bombing started, then why can't I like it when the bombing stops? Oh no, I've got to keep saying, well, they did bomb them, so I've got to keep unliking it. So in this present moment, we can say the story is that Iran is not getting bombed. Everything is okay right now. And this is really the teaching of the Buddha, that it has to do with what's happening right here, right now. You've got a choice about how you feel about it based upon the story that you tell yourself about it, which is based upon your past. Well, hello, Alex. Good to see you join us.
Hello. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Actually, I've just about completed the story. Let's go ahead and start
wonderful.
asking people some questions now. What do you think about it, Potato? Amrit, go ahead.
It's Eric.
Eric. Okay,
Yeah.
Eric.
Hello. I think that it connects with what you were talking about on Saturday morning, which is being aware of how lightly or heavily I'm wanting something. Yeah, the story that we tell ourselves is often directed by what we're wanting, our objectives. And if what everything we are wanting is light, or even better, if we're focused on practice, then our feelings will be noble.
That's correct. So we do have a choice. Can we remember that we've got a choice? That's why the practice is so important in the mention of the word sati, that we have to remember to look at what's happening right now within the mind. Because if we can see it, we have some control over it. And if you can't see the story that you're giving yourself, or you see it only a little bit, in other words, you don't have any real wisdom, you know that there's a story, they bombed Iran, but You immediately go to the old habit of, I don't like it that they bombed Iran, without even recognizing that they stopped bombing Iran. Why do I have to stay in that state of, I don't like it that they bombed Iran, when I have the choice of, I don't have to feel bad because they're not bombing Iran? Or take to the earlier story about the stressful client. The client is not stressing me out. What is stressing me out is the stress that I'm under of having a push-pull. I like one side of it and I don't like the other. So this state of confusion is the state that we normally put ourselves in. This pattern, you could say, is very, very common. If you've heard me talk about the 4 kinds of karma, what you could say is that the law of karma, the Hindus and the Christians and various religions talk about the law of karma is that if you do good, you'll get good results. And if you do bad, you'll get bad results. But the Buddha brings in, oh no, it's not like that, that almost all your actions are mixed. They're mixed. You have good intentions and bad things happen. You've heard the statements like the highway to hell is paved with good intentions. So everything, all of our actions wind up being mixed. If that's the case, then you could see that almost all of our feelings wind up being mixed. We don't have solid, completely happy feelings. We've always got a yes but in there someplace. So, can you begin to see that? Can you begin to see how everything is mixed up? And if you can see that, now you have a better choice about which side of that you're going to choose. So, Dietrich, what do you have to say about this?
I think it's really, really interesting. What makes me wonder a bit is like I get the feeling all the time that I need to practice it a lot because I sometimes get people who are get angry at me, and then I don't want to just automatically on default get into a reaction, but I feel it inside, and then I try to breathe and not go there, but still I'm not that skillful yet.
Okay. All right. You made a major, major important point that can be considered wrong view when you said you need to practice a lot. Did you say that?
I did.
All right. Can you change that to you need to practice now?
Yeah.
Yes. We don't need to practice a lot because a lot's either in the past or in the future. We need to practice right now. That in fact the story is that Kat called a very well-known female meditation teacher. She lives in England. I won't broadcast her name, but that in the conversation she mentioned that she still has some, let us call it, issues right now. And then she told Cathal that she needs to go into deep meditation. All right.
Yeah.
She missed the point. What kind of meditation teacher is it who says that they've got to go into deep meditation, in the sense that if you go into deep meditation, then that deep meditation is going to, what, cook or burn off the kilesa? And that she's not going to put those bondages back on? No, we don't need to practice deep meditation. We need to practice just enough, right bloody now. Right this very minute. That's where we look, because that's when it comes up. It always comes up now. It doesn't come up in deep meditation. How can you
But
deal with it
Dhammarato,
in, pardon?
how do you? How do you prepare then? Prepare for harsh words or people getting angry at you, or how do you prepare? Is that because you just practicing because you do it all the time? It's always now, now, now. So then you
Right.
prepare.
Exactly. You prepare enough. In fact, the major skill that we want to develop is the skill of remembering to practice right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the stressful client comes up or he gets on the phone and he says, well, what about my project? And you've already seen him as stressful client. So you're going to be stressed out when he just asks a question. Or you can be mindful right there. You can remember, hey, I don't have to get stressed out because he's asking a question. I could do something like, if I'm going to get stressed anyway, I can say, I'll get right back to you. I'll go look it up and see how things are. Or you can bullshit him. You can make him happy. You can do all kinds of things if you've got mindfulness in the present moment. But thinking that, oh, because I blew this phone call that I just had 1 minute ago, that means now I've got to go to the forest for 6 months, is that's a very Western mentality, that you've got to fix it before the now, to where in fact the only time you can fix it is right now. So thank you for bringing that up. That's excellent. You can't go practice to handle stressful clients right now. The only time that you can practice dealing with stressful clients is right now when you're with them.
Exactly.
So, Dominic, what do you think?
No, I think it makes sense. I guess one way in which I've been dealing with this is just, I'm curious whether you think it's an okay, because I'm aware of these things. You've talked about them before. At the same time, I could deal with, one stressful client or even 2 or 3 per day. But if you have like too many inputs at once, I can't keep track and I end up getting overwhelmed and whatever, because I'm not that good at it yet. So what I've done, and I'm curious what your input would be on this, is I've just sort of hired someone to kind of talk to clients for everyday things, and then if something's really urgent, then they pull me in, so I'm not dealing with as many stressors as a kind of intermediate coping mechanism. Um,
Yes,
I don't know.
exactly. Exactly so. Let us use in the analogy that the king does not have to entertain everybody. He's got a guard at the gate. And the guard's going to deal with most of the stuff, and the only ones who get to come into the king are the ones who really have king's business. So you become the king of your own place. Or the other one is that you can become the guard and say, oh, well, that's beyond my pay grade. Let me get you to somebody that you can fuss at. But in either case, you see, the point is that we're making it not my problem. Not my problem, not my issue. That it belongs to the king, I'm just the guard, or I'm the king, let the guard deal with it. Now, you can actually separate that out into 2 different factions of your own mind, and you can change back and forth. I'm not the guard, let the guard deal with it. And then a minute later, you can say, I'm not the king, let the king deal with it. And so you can
I
go
like
back.
that.
Pardon?
I was just saying I like that.
What happens with that is you get stuck into I, me, mine. I can handle 1 client, I can handle 2 clients, I can handle 3 clients, but I can't handle 4 clients. Well, that's just an old habit. And in fact, it's not you that's handling clients anyway. You're just having fun here. Learn to enjoy the people that are around, especially those that are unhappy, because if you can become happy when they're not happy, you can cheer them up. Then, in fact, they would probably be better off and actually enjoy it and consider the telephone call a major success, even if they don't get what they called for. But all they do get is, in fact, enjoying the conversation with you. So don't think that whatever they called about is your business. Your business is to cheer them up. Be happy. Especially if you don't know the answer to their question. You can get the answer later. Right now, your business is to be with them right now, joyfully, happily. No need to stress yourself out. So, Andrew, what do you have to say?
Hi.
Hi.
Hang on, I'll put myself on video. Hey. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like, society seems to make us want to believe that we have to like something or dislike something, and there's no other choice. But it's so liberating to know that you don't have to like or dislike. You can just be neither. You know, you can just let it all go and have joy in the renunciation of it all.
Yeah, there's nothing to it.
Delightful.
We've made something out of it. That's the story that we tell ourselves. And so the feeling actually is determined by the story that we tell ourselves. And so the way to handle that then is eventually come to the point of stop telling ourselves stories. Don't try to figure it out. Just let it be there.
It's okay to be confused as well. You can let that go as well.
Say again?
I said it's okay to feel unsure about something. You can also let that go as well. If you're feeling unsure and you're feeling unpleasant about it, that's fine. Let that go as well.
Yes, unsure does not have to go to unpleasant, but we've been taught that. We've been taught, mostly through school, that you're supposed to know the answer. You're going to get points taken off if you don't know the answer. And so here we are in business, and we're taking points off of our own score instead of just being, I don't know. You can't know everything. An example of that is, I know some Dhamma, but I don't know everything about the Dhamma. And not only that, but I don't know anything about your business. Don't know. I can't figure everything out. I don't even want to try to figure everything out. I don't want to know everything. I'm happy being not sure. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. So, Andrew, that's what I would recommend. You don't have to know the answer to the question when somebody calls, the one that you've already labeled as stressful. Where in fact the reality is that when they call, you're already stressful before they even say anything. They just ring and you see it's them calling. Oh, stress, stress, stress. Bazooka, bazooka, bazooka. And we're already going off into attack mode. Rather than in friendship mode. So that's what we can practice. You can practice sitting by the phone, imagining who's calling, Dietrich. Whoever it is calling, you're going to say, hot dog, I'm glad they called. Then you can look at that empty phone again. It didn't ring, and you can imagine it ringing again. And now it's the second person that you don't want to talk to. And then you can say, well, I can handle this. There's no problem. You see, oftentimes we make ourselves feel bad before we even know what's going to happen. We make ourselves feel bad just in case. So, Ivan, what do you think? Ivan, are you here?
Sleepy.
We'll just move on to Jonas. What do you think, Jonas?
really like how we were pointing out today how our stories create the experience of our world. For me, I often feel stuck in the story, and especially if a situation is emotionally charged, sometimes I realize way too late that I'm already so much in the story and just reacting to it. So today you've been talking about the wisdom at the point of contact, and I would like if you could say a few more words about this. Is it just a matter of having the right sati, or how does it work?
Okay. In Paticca Samuppada, there is the Pali word is salayatana. Salayatana is the story that we have made up, and perception is the making up of the story using stuff from the past. That we very rarely make up a story based upon what's happening just right now. Almost always, when that does happen, we feel like that we're missing information and we wind up making up a story about I don't know, and then we're in that confused feeling state that can deteriorate immediately into I don't like it. And so we use the sankara, or our past, when we're making up stories, and that we have a choice any place along the way of either using correct information or wholesome information to make up the story, or you can recognize that the story that you're making up is really probably wrong anyway, and we don't need to actually rely upon that story, so that when that story does impact us, it doesn't touch us much. In other words, we can become light along the way of this process. And so if we make the story very light, that means that it touches us very lightly. That's the wisdom. The wisdom is don't let things get to you. There was some famous musician that had a song, something like, da, 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 can't touch me. All right. So that's what he's speaking about right there. His story can't touch him. And if it can't touch him, then he's got a complete choice about how he's going to feel. So this is the way that you can look at the stories that you have. If you make up some big heavy story, then when it lands, it's going to land with a big thud, and you're going to have a great big feeling about it. So let's keep the stories that we tell ourselves very light. If the story is light, the touch is light, and the feelings is light, and everything is bright and beautiful. But if you make a big deal out of it, then it's going to hit you hard, and you're going to have big feelings about it. So this is the way that we can begin to handle. Now, if we can actually do that, then we're actually involved with the teachings that the Buddha gives about not just Paticca Samuppada, but this is fourth jhana material. Can you make your stories very, very light? Because if you can make no story out of it at all, then there is no touch at all, and therefore there's no feelings at all. And many people have the idea that, oh, the fourth jhana is so far away, oh, I'll never get there. That's just a story. That's actually a heavy story. That's a great big heavy story. Oh, I can never do it. Fourth jhana is way off there someplace. And no, fourth jhana is right now. I make no story up at all. I don't know what's happening, and I don't care. And that's that. That's all there is to it. So don't make up heavy stories. In fact, the Buddhist teaching generally uses heavy stories as examples, like the example that I used of they're bombing Iran. That's a very heavy story, isn't it? Well, not if you're on the other side of the world. It's a heavy story when you're under the bombs, but if you're not under the bombs, it's not a heavy story. The heaviness you made up. So don't make up heavy. Go ahead.
So part of it is also about infusing light and wholesome stories consciously? Is it like this?
Yeah, you can make light, wholesome stories out of it. Okay, an example would be that those U.S. bombers, they missed. They got bad intel. Nobody got hurt. At least nobody that I know of. Okay, so you can make your stories very light. So does that help you, Jonas, to understand about that touch? The Pali word is pasa. And sometimes it's just a nudge, and sometimes it's a full-on shove, and sometimes it's a ton of bricks falling on you. Always up to you.
Definitely. Yeah,
Pardon?
and also to bring the awareness to recognize, oh, I'm telling myself a story right now. I don't have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's a matter of practice to become more aware and have the right sati to see the story as stories.
Excellent. So, Carl, good to see you again.
Hello.
Hello. So, what do you think about today's talk?
Excellent talk. Excellent.
So you like it, huh?
What's not to like?
Well, it's up to you. It's also possible you could say, I don't believe him.
Well, it's just a nice story, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a nice story. Oh, Mr. Ben, what do you think?
Hi, Dhammarato. Yeah, don't need to believe you. When I was out at lunch before, bodily sensations arose that previously were categorized as anxiety, and there was something to fear and something to do about them. But I saw the story coming up in the mind, and I knew that the body was just tired because not sleeping much over a few days, and I just changed the story to, oh, the body's just tired. I can rest later, have a nap. I'm gonna breathe well now. And it just wasn't a problem. Like, the sensations stayed there, but they're just sensations. They can't do anything if you change the story to one of, they're okay, everything's fine.
Breath and relax right now.
Yeah.
Don't have to push on. If I'm tired right now, let me relax right now. May not take but 10 seconds. If I can do that early, it'll only take 10 seconds. If I wait 30 minutes of being tired, it may take 30 minutes of rest that's needed.
Yeah.
So rest often, but only rest when you need to rest. So become aware. That's the amazing part about this teaching of the Buddha, that everything happens that we need to work on in the sense of the Buddhadasana, Buddhasasana is right now. You don't have to say, oh, I need to go rest, but let me trudge on right now. Or, oh, I need to go into deep meditation, but let me trudge on right now. This is missing the point. The point is that something comes up, I can handle it happily right now. I don't have to get rid of it forever. You can't get rid of anything forever, but you can get rid of it right now. And pretty soon it gets really, really easy to get rid of it right now. But that would be what you would consider an arahat, as someone who can handle things so well, he's so skillful that it never bothers him because he can handle it right now. Alex, what do you think?
Oh, I think that sounds wonderful.
Let's
It's
see
nice
it.
to stop
Ivan,
maybe
Ivan, did
step
you
up.
come back? Are you still gone? Oh, he's back.
Yeah.
The talk was so amazing. I fell asleep 10 minutes ago.
And here I had made the tragic assumption that you were in the toilet.
It was also very timely because there was some confusion wanting to get something stress or whatever, and then I changed the story. I feel so comfortable. I don't even know what I was stressed about just now.
If you can get to it fast, it doesn't mean anything, and therefore it's easily forgotten. Let's make your life so happy, so joyful, so light that whatever stories you make up touches you so light, they're not even worth remembering. They're not even worth remembering because they didn't impact us. They didn't touch us hard enough to make an impact.
Just a scratch.
Just not even a scratch. Miss me completely.
Yes.
So, Kirshni, what do you have to say?
Hello.
Hello.
Let me think. I wanted to, I guess, ask about how some people they kind of want to worry about things like what the president is doing, even though they have no way they can impact it, or they worry about what's happening to people on the other side of the world, and they think that if they don't, then they're being maybe selfish, or that, or one of my friends sometimes says that he needs to think about stuff like that because maybe he'll eventually get an idea what he can do about it, even though he can't do anything about it right now.
Monk in Washington, D.C., staying at Wat Thai, Washington. I somehow got on the list of dignitaries so that at any time that some politician wanted a group of monks to make himself look good, I got involved with it, probably because I was the only one who could speak English to them. And so I was in several different facilities around Washington, and I noticed something that was on the wall quite frequently, a Xerox copy of actually, it was a drawing of a pond where the figure was standing in the middle of the pond, surrounded by alligators, and that the caption of this was, "When you're up to your hips in alligators, it's hard to remember that your original intention was to drain the swamp." So this swamp draining thing has been very common in the U.S. government for so many years, because this was back in the 1980s, early 90s. And I think that that's still being used. In fact, even Donald Trump has talked about draining the swamp. He hired a whole bunch of alligators to help him drain the swamp. So this is the reason why people think that eventually, if I worry and fret enough, I'll figure out how to drain the swamp. But if they actually get in the swamp, they become one of the alligators. That they don't ever drain the swamp. The swamp is not drainable. That in fact, the Buddha would recommend to get out of the swamp, to get up on the shore and dry out. This is what we mean by seclusion. So if this guy says the next time you talk to him that, oh, he's got to keep figuring out, he's got to stay in the swamp, you'll tell him, you haven't drained it yet. You probably won't. Please don't go to Washington, D.C., or you'll actually become one of the alligators. You can't fix things that are not yours. But that's one of the major teachings of the Buddha, is that you can only fix your own mind. That's what we're doing here is we're listening about how can I fix my own mind, and not one place have I talked about how to get rid of a politician. Can't do it. Can't change a politician. Don't want to change a politician. What I want to change is my own mind so that I don't have to worry about the politicians. I'm okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Then what is the limit of our wholesome change, like wholesome action? Like
The
so
most
we cannot
wholesome
change other
action is
people.
the most wholesome action is no action at all. That in fact, Sheep, you've already found out that you can't help your mother. She's going to fret at you no matter what you do.
Yeah.
That you're already the identified problem child in your family. Okay, that I'd in fact go and mention the avatar that you have. Look at Avlin's avatar. He's got a cute little bunny. I've got a fat Buddha. And look at the one that you've chosen. Some sort of green gremlin or something. I would I would suggest right away that you change your avatar to some cute little bunny so that you
Okay.
can begin to feel like some cute little bunny. Don't give yourself the image that your mother gives you, or in fact that you've given yourself, that you're the gremlin in the family. You're not the gremlin in your family. That's just a story that you're telling yourself.
Oh, yes.
Can you get that? That you're the one who makes yourself into that gremlin.
So wholesome change is like we change our own mind, right? That's kind of what wholesome change are.
See
So
yourself as
yeah.
lovable and cute. Pretend to be lovable and cute. If you pretend to be lovable and cute, your mom may start to see you as lovable and cute. And if she doesn't, still be lovable and cute. Your choice. So, who was it that left a note? Matt, you're in Thailand too. Tell me what your question was.
Oh, Dhammarato, I'm curious to learn about like your experiences behind what leads you towards like certain conclusions. Like, oh, if you can't do anything about now, you can't do anything about it in the future, or things like that. Like, which can you give examples of experience that you had in your life that like leads you towards those conclusions and things like that? I'm like curious to learn.
The only thing that I can think of is by practicing the Dhamma wisely, because that's what the Buddha taught. Practice what the Buddha taught, and you can see it for yourself wisely. Everything has to be done in the present moment. Thinking about I'm going to go practice the piano is not piano practice. Thinking that I'm going to go get into deep meditation to solve my problem is not solving the problem. The only time you can solve the problem is right now while you've got that problem. And guess what? You just made up that problem. So it's easy enough to just make up another story that's not a problem. Now, I've done this for so long, so lightly, that I don't even remember any particular stories. None of them come to mind, but I've done it 100,000 times. So you start to practice that too. Aha! He changed his avatar. Cute little sheep. I like that.
Right on.
That's a good start. So let's see who's next. Martina, what you got to say? How about you, Dean? Good to see you, friend.
Hello, Dhammarato. Yeah, it was good listening to you. Yeah, I'm telling myself some bad stories and I'm having some very bad feelings, so it's not good. But it was a good call, and it's what I think it's what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
More practice.
Some stories, because you just made that stuff up. You're actually choosing by the stories that you make up about how you're going to feel.
Mhm.
So let's see who's next. How about you, Paul? Good to see you, friend.
Was a good call. It was nice to have Alex as a laugh track as well. Quite joyful.
Glad to be of service.
Amazing. Thank you, Dhammarato.
Okay, how about you, Tim?
Hi, Dhammarato. Yeah, I think when you're in a story, a dense one, it can be hell, but you just don't see it. And when you see it, it's nothing. That's what I.
Yeah, nothing to it. Just made it up. So take everything so lightly. There's nothing worth. So Yvonne, how about you? Giannis.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this call. It was great, like having also the laugh track, and also like seeing Carwan relaxing. That was a nice addition. Really enjoyed it all. And like what I got from it, I think like the main thing I got from it is like what I can control right now, if I pay attention, is like my perspective on the presently arisen feeling, and that like that can also have an effect on what comes next.
Because when you know what comes next?
I don't
Now. And right after that, what comes next after that? Now. That's all we've got. If you recognize that, all you've got is now. How could you possibly say, "Oh, I'm going to go practice the piano next year," or "Oh, I'm going to go practice deep meditation later"? I'll get rid of my problem right now. Later, when I'm in deep meditation, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
So-
but like if I get the question of like how would I feel if I could feel however I want to feel, like, is the answer like how I feel now? Like,
Yeah,
because that's
right now. How I feel right now, good enough. Good enough.
Okay.
All right. So thank you all so much. Mikey, can you land this jumbo jet today?
Happily. Yeah, thank you, friends, for being here today. What a pleasant and light talk. Yeah, when we're talking about stories, we can put distance between us and the story. Don't have to see ourselves as being so involved in it, or even as the main character. Instead, we can just see ourselves as the laugh track in the audience, taking it easy.
Yeah, just enjoy the show.
Yeah, just enjoy the show. And of course, something that's being brought to mind as well is the Wizard of Oz. The wizard looks like this big green face, but in reality, it's just an old man behind a curtain with a microphone. A lot of the stories and the scary monsters we tell ourselves about aren't really all that big of a deal. It's just some old man shouting in a microphone. So go ahead and hit like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and leave a comment as well. Really enjoy reading the YouTube comments. And you can follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts too. And thank you so much, everyone, for your contributions to the various Discord channels. If you haven't been, start doing a one-on-one call. Maybe pick out a practitioner here that's on the call, or pick out someone you've seen that's been posting wholesome thoughts across the Discord, and make a new friend. Yeah, we really enjoy making noble friends here, and continually enjoy seeing that. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you so much. Ben, you've got Dean right here on the call with you, so I want you guys to get together about Facebook. That's actually something that I can mention to everyone here, is to go to Facebook's Open Sangha. We've got more than 3,000 friends. We've got huge amounts of data and things there. We're just, we got the place all built up, all dressed up, and now not going anyplace. So let's get on our Facebook, because it's actually quite a resource for us to gain new friends. So I would recommend that you do that. Also, we've got the website. It was down for a while this week, but thanks to the brilliance of Mikey, we got it back up again. He's actually the old man that's turning the dials and speaking in the microphone. He's the wizard. So I very much enjoyed this call. Thank you all for coming. I really enjoy it when I see so many friends having so much fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dhammarato.
Having
Thank you.
good
Thank you so
insight.
much.
Care, buddy.
Thanks, Dhammarato.
Thank
Bye.
See you, everyone.
Bye.